All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the May 2023 edition of our meeting of 5 Miles from Anywhere. Today, we're delighted to have Rowles, the City of London tour guide and Sherlockian extraordinaire, giving a talk on murder in plein air in the Canon. All right. So first, we're going to just do a few announcements, and then Robin will be on. He'll take a look at the show on the road here. So let me just share my screen. All right. Slideshow. Okay. So as I said, we'll do announcements. Oh, that's actually incorrect. That should not say London Tour of the Redheaded League. That was when you were last time here, Robin. I should say Murder in Plein Air. So my bad on that. And then we will have our discussion. All right, first of all, and I know Steve's mentioned this, Steve Mason's mentioned this a couple of times, but coming up Memorial Day weekend this year is the Lone Star Homes Conference, a look at Sherlock Holmes past, present, and future. It has a wonderful, wonderful lineup of speakers, and I'm sure it'll be a great time. Unfortunately, with it being Memorial Day, I can't make it because it's just too close to my end of my school year. But Steve, did you want to say anything about the conference right now? Can I unmute yourself?
Obviously, it's not too late to register and come down. We tried to keep the prices very reasonable, and we have, like you said, a wonderful lineup of speakers, including Peter Blau and Barbara Rush and Glenn Maranker and Rob Nunn, and a few others. So, and we hope to have a really good time. So anybody is welcome to come down.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, the lineup looks impressive. The activities look great. I think it looks like a fantastic time. So if anybody can make it to Dallas for Memorial Day weekend, I'm sure it'll be a phenomenal conference. So thanks, Steve. All right, Madeline was going to try to make it, Quinones today, but she was going to be driving back from interviewing some of the people involved with the new Ken Ludwig play Moriarty, which just now is debuting. She's interviewed several of the people involved in it, and she's going to have it as part of her Dynamics of a Podcast, and she'll let us know when those go live, but she said kind of keep looking for them. It sounded really great. I'm not sure if she actually got to interview Ken Ludwig himself, but the play is currently going on. It's having its world premiere right now until May 21st. So I believe it's in Cleveland that the performance is, that it's debuting. So, and then I'm not sure where it's going to go after that, but definitely check it out. All right. The last announcement I have is just one from me. If anybody happened to get the latest Baker Street Journal, I have an article in it based on a talk I gave here. So it was one I gave last year. I think it was last year, maybe even been before then, about how the Reigate Squires overpowered Sherlock Holmes. And so if you have the issue at the time, I said, well, I really wanted to turn this into an article, and I finally got around to it. And Dan Andriaco was gracious enough not only to agree to publish it in his first issue, which I just thought was kind of cool, but he also came up with the title, because my title really wasn't great. He came up with a fantastic title for it, I think. But I think if you read it, if you were here that time, I think you'll remember it, and it was quite fun. And so again, if anyone wants to give a presentation, if you're trying to write an article, this is a good forum to kind of give a talk on it, get feedback from the audience, and incorporate it into your writing. So I just wanted to share that with you. Any other announcements before we move on? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody better. Oh, Edith, and you can unmute and
So the bimetallic question of Montreal is going to have its next non-Sherlockian Doyle meeting on Tuesday, and we're going to be discussing the mystery of Cloomber, which is available in various different editions and online at the Arthur Conan Doyle Encyclopedia. And if anybody would like to be on that mailing list, just let me know.
How long does the meeting go, Edith?
It's usually at least an hour, sometimes as long as 2 hours. Just,
Okay.
you know, it's a fun chat.
I'm gonna try to make it. I think it looked really cool, and I that's such a unique mystery. Technically, the first one Doyle started writing, right? He stopped it, finished studying Charlotte, then wrote it again. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Steve, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that tomorrow the crew of the Bark Lone Star is having their monthly meeting, and our special guest speaker is Daniel Stashauer, who is going to be talking about Holmes and Doyle and their relationship throughout the years. So I will put my email in the chat. If anybody would like to come, send me an email and I will forward them the Zoom link.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. All right, anything else? The good of the cause? All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen then. Let's make sure there's nothing in the chat. Oh, we're good.
Shanna, were you raising your hand?
Sure.
Oh.
Just a reminder that this coming weekend is Ash Spring Luncheon here in New York City. I think you can still get tickets if you have not done so and would like to come.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. All right. Oops. Oops. All right. I keep doing this. Going too far ahead. All right. There we go. All right. So, honored to introduce our guest for today, Robin Rowles. He studied history at Birkbeck University in London, where he developed a love for the modern period and the Civil Wars. Robin is currently a City of London tour guide, offers a diverse portfolio of London walks, including some Sherlockian ones, like The Man Accused of Murdering Himself, which Brian and I had the honor of walking on back in March with Robin, and it was phenomenal. And also a Redheaded League walk, which some of you might remember last year, I believe it was last March, Robin gave to us here as a talk on it. It was really cool. So today, Robin's going to talk about Murder in Plain Air in the Canon, and I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so that we can all give a virtual round of applause for Robin, and you can give him a chance to get started. And good, Robin. Oh, you're muted. Let me, you have to unmute yourself there. Let's see if I'm able.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for those very kind comments. And so for the next 15 minutes, probably not much more, because there's not really an awful lot to say, but there's an awful lot to talk about afterwards. We'll talk about murder al fresco, outdoor murders, and murderous attempts in the canon. So without further ado, taking this slightly chronologically, the first one is The Study in Scarlet. and we have Jefferson Hope's confessional to Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. And the first murder victim is the unfortunate John Ferrier, who resisted the attempt of the Mormon sect to kidnap his daughter, but unfortunately died in the attempt, and thus set up a very long revenge story, which resulted in the deaths of three men, the pursuers and the pursued. So not much in the way of murder, but quite a lot in the way of mystery and intrigue. So moving slowly on. Okay, when we get to the monthly series in the Strand magazine, we're actually 4 stories in before we get to a murder. But it's quite a good one, because we have a farmer, Charles McCarthy, bludgeoned to death with a stone, and his son, James McCarthy, who'd been seen quarrelling with his father, was accused of this. And we have such interesting elements as a forced marriage and a shocking last-minute confession from the murderer, who is himself dying. Although in that illustration by Sidney Paget, the old man doesn't look as though he's dying. It looks as though he's dancing a celebratory jig of what he's managed to achieve. So I think Mr. Paget has demonstrated what Holmes has called a porky sense of humour there. Okay. Oh, now Conan Doyle ramps it up. The 5 orange pips, the bizarre portents of harm and danger yet to come, 3 murders in one story, a shattered skull, cause unknown, 2 drownings, plausible but suspicious, reimagined, of course, in the Basil Rathbone movie Sherlock Holmes: The House of Fear. But just getting back to the drownings, a much more effective way of murdering without causing suspicion than stabbing or shooting, because a drowning can be written off as accidental, but a stabbing or a shooting can only ever be deliberate. And of course, if you think about the men perpetrating the murders, they were seamen, mariners. What is the most common cause of death for a seaman? It's likely to be drowning. That would have naturally have occurred to them. And of course, it is strongly implied that the murderers themselves were drowned when their ship was sunk during the autumn gales. Okay, now we have a sort of double-decker, Silver Blaze and the Priory School. These stories have so many similarities. It's almost a case of spotting the contrast. For the missing horse, you can read The Missing Boy. Both have noble clients which initially resent Holmes's presence and then gradually come around, ever so grudgingly, to acceptance of the situation. Cases solved by tracks on the ground, hoof prints, bicycle tracks, and that remarkable cow which can trot, canter, and gallop. A very agile animal indeed. And of course, in both stories, the culprit is too close to home for comfort. But in the case of the Priory School, we see the unfortunate Herr Heidegger, a rare example of the good German within the canon. Normally, they're portrayed as the baddies, but this time the Germans are on the side of the angels. Yes, the cardboard box. It's a slightly unfortunate story because it's moved around in its place within the canon, and when it was dramatized by Granada, they moved it from the high summer into the Christmas season. They did preserve certain elements of the story, such as the fake boating accident and the murder, and of course the famous deduction about the clues with the severed ears was not a prank by medical students, but was some grisly warning sent. And of course, we have Holmes' famous lines, "What object is served by this circle of misery and violence and fear?" Deep, deep words indeed. One of my favourite stories, the Reigate Squires, just by way of preface, it's important to remember during this story, Holmes is absolutely burnt out after a very long case, and he's gone down to the country for rest and recuperation. But this is going to be the last thing he's going to get, because he's promptly contacted by Inspector Bob Forrester in respect of a bizarre murder. But even better than that, we have the bizarre case features: the burglars that steal a copy of Pope's Homer, silver candlesticks, and a ball of twine; the blackmailing coachman shot dead by a pistol; and of course that famous scene when, in the examination of the Cannon's house, when Holmes sends the orange bowl flying, Watson takes the blame, and of course, just as Holmes finds the incriminating papers, he's jumped by the Cunninghams. One's trying to throttle him, the other one's trying to get the paper out of his hand. A clear admission of guilt by behaviour, if not by words. The final problem: we have multiple attempts on Holmes's life, especially via air guns. And as Moriarty finds out, it's dangerous to start fights on high ledges above waterfalls. Strictly speaking, I wouldn't say it's a murder. It's more of a last-ditch revenge attempt. But as one of those stories that stands tall, it's very hard to leave it out. Okay. The Dancing Men. I pondered long and hard whether to include this, and decided to include this because although Hilton Cubitt was inside, and Abe Slaney outside when the shots was fired, it was the fact that the assailant was outside and had decided to fire the shots. Holmes had previously wired to Chicago and found out that Abe Slaney was the most dangerous man in Chicago, and so as we see here, they're taking no chances. 3-on-1, handcuffs and a gun to the head. This case is going nowhere. Okay, the 6 Napoleons. Maybe not an obvious one, but being knifed to death on Horace Harper's doorstep surely counts as an external murder. And that famous deduction by Sherlock Holmes, nothing less will hold the London messenger boy. Holmes deduces the murder, of course, by the state of the step which had been swilled down to remove the blood from the gaze of passers-by. Wisteria Lodge. Quite a bit to say about this. Mr. Aloysius Garcia was bludgeoned to death with a pistol on the heath. And it's quite obvious that he invited Mr. Scott Eccles to dinner to be the perfect witness, because we know he knocks on his door in the small hours to ask if he required anything. And then when Mr. Scott Eccles asked what the time was, he gave him a different time, and thus introduced us to the time shift clock device, an idea later used in Colombo and Jonathan Creek, where you can establish that one person can be in different places at the same time. Thor Bridge, another classic. suicide and attempted judicial murder by the frame-up. And interesting point here, Holmes says, I will give you a case which will make England ring. Whereas earlier in the story, when he was rebuffing the Gold King, he said, thank you, I am not in need of booming. But quite obviously, by this point in the case, the Gold King's attitude and behavior had so irked Sherlock Holmes, he decided, well, you may have the most money in the world, but I'll show you who's the cleverest detective. And there are passing similarities to the Musgrave ritual, where it's solved with a simple scientific experiment with everyday items. And in both cases, a ball of twine is the essential feature. And it's a bit unfortunate. Poor old Dr. Watson, it's his pistol that's used to recreate the second experiment. But as in the Musgrave ritual, both experiments are successful because from the story, it reads the second chip in the balustrade of the bridge is almost identical to the first. And it's almost a case of, this is not a reconstruction, this is how it was done, end of case. Okay. I'm being a bit mischievous with the Valley of Fear, because at the epilogue, we have John Douglas washed overboard during a sea storm. I'm not so sure. We know he'd faked his death previously in the story, and had he done so again? And the big question is, did Dr. Watson cook this story to throw Moriarty's gang off the scent? We'll never know the answer to that one. So I'll leave that entirely to your, make your own conclusions on that one. The illustrious client. And certainly one attempted murder, other murders implied. Kitty Winter tells Violet de Merville, you will die of either a broken heart or a broken neck. Possibly both. Notable, of course, for the murderous attack on Sherlock Holmes outside the Cafe Royal Regent Street. Gentlemen, have you no shame? Are there no standards? And of course, Sir James Damery has got a lot of tidying up to do after this case. Kitty Winter gets a suspended sentence. Sherlock Holmes could be on charges of burglary, and Dr. Watson on charges of being an accessory by impersonating an art expert. This could have been, without the support of that illustrious client, this case could have been very, very messy. And it's just so lucky that Holmes had that resource behind him to pull it all together and pull a few strings to tidy it all up. Okay. We're now going to default back into the animal kingdom and the lion's mane. Obviously, the most unusual murderer in the canon, and also a rarity. The story is related by Holmes. There's a couple of earlier stories, The Glorious Scot and the Musgrave Ritual, where Holmes told them to Watson, but now Holmes is telling them direct. And of course, it's got all the elements, a mysterious murder, a love triangle, the suspicion that the assailant is using some bizarre apparatus to do the killing. And yet all the clues come back to the sea pool where the two victims and the dog were. And of course, as we know, the murderer was that species of jellyfish, the lion's mane. Incidentally, the lion's mane is not actually a rare and exotic species. It lives in the North Atlantic, parts of the English Channel and the Irish Sea. But don't let that put you off sea swimming. Jellyfish attacks are actually relatively rare. Okay. Right. Well, you knew this one was coming. You can't have murders without talking about the Hound of the Baskervilles. It's like talking about Switzerland without mentioning the mountains, or talking about London without mentioning the underground. That they go hand in hand. At least 2 known murders via the dog. So Charles Baskerville dies of pure terror when his heart gives out, and Selden the convict passes into more merciful hands, as Basil Rathbone says in the 1939 movie. And here we see the trio of them inspecting the body of which they think is Sir Henry. It's actually the convict Selden, wearing Sir Henry's clothes. Hence the dog was distracted. And so was Stapleton, because Stapleton thinks it's job done. Well, it's not over. And of course, in this story, Dartmoor, the moor itself, exercises judgment and execution on Stapleton as he's sucked down to its depths for his crimes. Well, I think that may have been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but thank you very much. And I'd just like to put up a picture of Silver Blaze, who did not murder John Straker, but killed him in self-defense of his own person. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Robin. Let me just stop sharing, and then we can get the discussion started around the topic of murder in plein air, or murder al fresco. Okay. Would anyone like to start? I've got a few things written down, but oh, Michael, what you got, my friend?
Wasn't there a bit of a bloodbath in Gloria Scott?
Yes, I did consider the Gloria Scott. I wasn't entirely sure if killing on the ship was enough outside in the fresh air to warrant inclusion. But it was certainly have gone in as a very marginal case. So yes.
Okay.
Steve, is your hand raised, or is that from before? Okay. All right. Robin, I'm wondering, what did you notice were some of the differences? I mean, basically, we have a bloodbath through the Canon here of these murders. What did you notice were some of the differences of the murders on these types of stories as compared to the ones that happen, say, indoors?
Oh, well, I did actually notice that there's a couple of deaths caused by animals, and there's at least in the Speckled Band we've got a death caused by animal. That there are poisonings taking place indoors, and stabbings. I'm thinking about Study in Scarlet. So yes, so there's stories which have murders indoors and outdoors.
Just to add to, it occurred to me, I liked it when it pointed out the similarities between Silver Blaze and Priory School. It never occurred to me before, but one of the big things is one of the big things in outside murders would be tracking. There's a big tracking element in both of those stories, and the only other tracking I can remember in the is in I guess A Study in Scarlet, where with the dog, but his those long tracking sequences across the moor are pretty good, and of course that's how we know. And in the Hound of the Baskervilles, of course, that's how we know Selden died, because they tracked him to a bog and then he disappears. So there's that tracking element that's different than in inside murders. It occurs to me anyway.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Let's see.
I also was thinking just when you bring up all these stories, and there's, I mean, quite a few here from out of the 60. I mean, I think it was what, 17? Is that what we had? Is that about right? Or 18 of these stories, which is almost a third. And I was just thinking about the atmosphere, like the settings, and how they kind of added to the canon. We always think of homes in London and going through the city, but a lot of it, like Boscombe Valley Mystery, The Hound, of course, very atmospheric. And they kind of add to that whole creation Doyle did of this England setting for the home stories.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and also thinking about the time, 1880s, 1890s, gaslighting wouldn't have been that common in the countryside where a lot of these murders take place. It would have been oil lamps and candles, and so if things would have been a little bit more scary and sinister, as opposed to the so-called civilized city.
So a third of the canon, you would say, Derek? It's kind of like,
Yeah, about that. I mean, yeah.
You'd think it'd be 50% because it can only be inside or outside. So it'd be like half if it was
Well, Ron
random.
was specific about murder, though, right? I mean,
Right.
some of the other stories definitely did have
Right.
outdoor aspects. Certainly, like Red-Headed League or
Sure.
Blue Carbuncle definitely had outside, but they just weren't murdered.
Right. That's right. That's true.
Brian, did you want to jump in?
Well, first of all, I don't think the jellyfish can be considered a murderer because murder implies intent. But also I was just thinking, it's interesting that this is the era of the London fog being the pea soups, and there's so many opportunities for, well, a good old-fashioned British murder. And yet I don't think any of the stories of the canon mention, any criminals taking advantage of the fog. I mean, if you read like stuff like contemporary stuff for that era, like the Ripper lore, you hear a lot about that. They're like, well, if you could actually see in front of your face, we probably would have caught the guy.
Okay, I'll take both those points. I'll take your point about the jellyfish. If it's good enough for ACD, it's good enough for me.
Well,
We can say,
what do you mean intent, Brian? I mean, would you give him a hug? What did the jellyfish try to do to him?
I think it stings you, doesn't it?
yes.
Yes, but it
Well, I
wasn't
think
trying to.
I
It
think
wasn't.
intent is not the element that you're thinking of.
It was trying to shake his hand.
Of an
It was,
animal.
yeah, it wasn't going for his wallet or anything.
Right. Well, that's true.
Okay.
I think it was simple self-defense.
Right.
The jellyfish was stuck in this pool and something comes in there and he's defending himself.
Right.
It is still murder. I mean, if you kill somebody in self-defense who isn't actually trying to harm you, it is murder. But he's a jellyfish. What does he know?
Well, it's like, I wouldn't call the hound the murderer either. I mean, he was just chasing him.
We need more barristers in the group to chime in.
Yeah, it would not be murder because murder requires an intent to kill, malice aforethought. It would be a homicide, but it would be excused under self-defense, as Sandy says, because the poor what was the jellyfish? It was just out for a swim, and got attacked by the guy.
Well, he's basically, the poor thing is caught in a pool. I mean, he's been swept in by the waves and now he can't get out of this pool. So he's probably scared to begin with if a jellyfish could get scared.
Yeah. I don't know. Lion kills a deer or eats a.
I would think a jellyfish is capable of shaking.
But they will defend themselves, and most animals will, however low they are. And if something is, he's a big jellyfish stuck in a small pond. And now something comes in. If I were a jellyfish, I'd sting that thing too. It's,
Oh, nice. That's nice to know that, Sandy.
yes, so if I'm
We'll
in
bear
a
that in
small,
mind about
if
you.
I'm in a small swimming pool, don't jump in without warning.
Right, okay, there you go.
Hey, Rich, since you have a law background, would any of the animals that committed that killed in the canon, would any of them count as murder? I'm just curious because you had a very clear definition there. Like, would the hound have counted? Because
Animals don't
he was
murder.
sicked on them.
Oh, my goodness.
Spider eats a fly. Is that murder?
I think hunting animals have an intent to kill, don't they?
Yeah, but that's right. You wouldn't call that murder, though. That's why intent to kill is the wrong thing to focus on.
Mm.
I don't know. Rich had the legal definition there. Intent is important. It always is in legal stuff.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't think that the animals, yeah, I don't think that they would have the mens rea.
There you
I
go.
don't know. I don't.
It'd be legal in Florida.
It'd be the owner. The owner would be the one.
Florida
that
it'd be
would be-
legal.
The owner would be the one that would be charged.
Yeah, of
Wow.
course, of course.
You were
Right,
standing
right. Yeah, there'd be a weapon, right? Because they're used as a weapon. So that makes more sense.
right.
Wow.
All right, Michael, do you want to jump in?
Well, as someone who grew up in London during the pea soup of fogs, that was a murderous situation too. That killed people.
Yes, it was alluded to in the Bruce Parkinson plans.
Yeah,
Ah, okay.
it was awful. You could feel it on you. And as an asthmatic, that wasn't much pleasure.
Mm.
Well, that was my point, was that I'm surprised that it wasn't mentioned in the canon more often.
Right.
All right, let's all right, Shayna, you're up.
Yeah, Robin just mentioned this
Oh, no.
because I knew there was a quote where Holmes like looks up and says, "Look at this. This is prime crime weather. You know, where are the criminals?" Where it is the beginning of the Bruce Partington plans, and there's a dense yellow fog, and Holmes says, "The London criminal is certainly a dull fellow. Look out this window, Watson. See how the figures loom up, are dimly seen, and then blend once more into the cloud bank. The thief or the murderer could roam London on such a day as the tiger does the jungle, unseen until he pounces, and then evident only to his victim." So I don't know that anyone ever actually did that, but Holmes certainly recognizes the possibilities in a good London pea souper.
Mm. I would also add that's very colourful, almost poetic language from Sherlock Holmes, and he accuses Dr. Watson of embellishing his narratives. And yeah, nice turn of phrase when he wants it.
Tom.
Well,
You gotta
maybe I was
unmute.
watching embellishing what Holmes actually said.
Mhm.
I was just going to mention, I was thinking that fog might have played a role in the murder of John Openshaw in the 5 Orange Pips, but I looked back at the story and about all it said was that it was a dark and stormy night. Fog was not specifically mentioned, so that lack of using fog still holds up.
I think it might have been raining in Fine Sherman's Pips. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think there's a reference to an umbrella in inclement weather.
Definitely. I always thought that Holmes blew it because he didn't want to go out in the rain. Sorry.
With respect to other outside murders, Adelbert Gruner was accused of killing his wife, and Holmes called him the Austrian murderer.
Mm.
He didn't actually kill her, he just pushed her off a cliff.
in the
That's-
Granada
It's the
version.
height that killed her.
Gravity's the real criminal.
Yeah.
You guys, boy, you let everybody off. You push them off the cliff, that's murder, I would say.
Yeah, as Edith said, the landing killed him, not the fall. Or killed her.
Hmm.
Well, then, doesn't that mean that Sherlock Holmes is a murderer in the case of the final problem?
Self-defense.
He definitely killed him, but it's self-defense.
And he didn't, I mean, he flipped them around too. And then, you know, Moriarty lost his balance even, you could say. I mean,
I don't know.
you could even say accident. I know that would be a stretch. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know. What a great jury you guys make.
Well, if you will to wrestle over a waterfall, I mean, you know, you have to
Yeah.
expect that now and then there will be an accident, as you say.
Well, I
Um,
suppose,
Oh, go ahead.
geez, I suppose at the time that means that Doyle was the murderer for Final Problem because that he had no intention of bringing back Holmes.
It was attempted murder.
He was called the brute.
We didn't know it was attempted at the time, though.
Right.
That's
Well,
future evident. That's
well, he really tried, but it didn't work.
He definitely had malice aforethought.
yes, yes, he did.
Definitely, yeah.
Michael,
Well,
do
I-
you want to jump in again? Oh, Michael, did you want to say something?
No, it just got covered. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Well, the
I-
woman wrote to him, you called him a brute for murdering him. Right?
I don't think Doyle could be said to murder him. All he did was not write about him. But there was no evidence that he killed him. He just didn't write about him anymore. And as it turned out later, there were things that happened in between.
But it was his intent, wasn't it?
It was
Yes.
his intent not to write about him.
The story was the intent. Writing a story where Holmes dies is an attempt to kill Holmes.
Well,
If you're the author.
Well,
Yeah.
it was intended to make us think he died, but obviously it turns out we were wrong.
I think I'd say it's fair to say that Doyle failed to kill Holmes, that he tried to kill him and just couldn't do it.
I agree with you, but he didn't kill him.
Okay.
If you fail to kill somebody, then you didn't kill him.
Right. That's why it's
Right,
attempted
okay.
murder. Attempted murder.
Attempted.
Robin, did you find any of this with all these different outdoor murders, and you being the London tour guide, walking around quite a bit outside? Why do you think in some of these cases Doyle chose the particular settings that he did? Some of these stories definitely they have to be outside, right? But others, I think, you know, possibly depending on how he arranged things, could have been done indoors.
That's a hard one. I actually think that Conan Doyle was just a natural storyteller, and he saw a place and a situation. He just thought, "Oh, there's a story here. I'm going to make it happen."
yeah.
It's as simple as that.
All right.
It's a bit like the Bernard Cornwell the Sharp novels of the Napoleonic Wars. He takes a situation where the battle is, but the book's not about the battle. The book's about the backstory to the battle, and what's going on in the various armies. The battle itself is actually a very small part of the book, but because the backstory is actually the story of the novel. If that makes sense.
No, that does, and that's actually pretty common in a lot of noir stories, right?
Yeah.
Start do the flashback where the real story takes place. It's true.
Right.
Right. Michael, is your hand up again?
Yeah, I just thought of another situation where there was an intent to murder. right at the beginning of the Crooked Man, when he got sent on a mission that he couldn't survive, and that was intended to kill him as a competitor for the lady.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I missed that one entirely.
Well,
Yeah,
because
that's
he
good.
didn't kill, because as it turned out, he
But
It was
it
attempted
died,
murder.
so he wasn't killed.
there
Attempted.
was definite intent, though, wasn't there?
It
I
was
mean,
intent.
he even leaked the information that he'd be taking that mission. Even, you know, the people knew him and were waiting for him. Then it turned out they wanted to use him rather than kill him.
Right.
Huh.
Well,
In case I forget, Robin,
if he hadn't survived, there wouldn't have been a story, so.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael, you guys finish the thought there?
Yeah, it's going off the line a bit, but if ever you write the story, I think the title "Murder al Fresco" is rather creative.
Okay.
Were there, I mean, and also, I mean, I'm wondering, is this list the majority of murders in the canon? I mean, were most of them committed outside?
No, I've yet to refine it, but I think there's about a dozen or so indoor murders. Some of which are the same stories that I've listed here, like A Study in Scarlet.
Right.
Obviously the sign of Four,
Black Peter is a good one.
Black Peter,
Side murder.
Speckled Band.
Definitely.
Right. I was just trying to think, total, because you have a good chunk of stories here. I'd be curious just to compare the two and just see how many happened indoor, how many happened outdoor, and maybe a little bit more about, like, as you said, storytelling. So, like, what made it kind of work in those particular settings?
A couple of the spy ones involving spy agents also have indoor murders. Second Stain.
Yeah.
It's the wife who comes and murders the husband, but it's still a murder and it's still inside.
Absolutely. Yeah, Second Stain. You could probably add in the Bruce Partington plans.
Sure.
I'm just trying to think.
Actually, the Bruce Partington plans, he's thrown out. That's an outside killing because
It is, isn't it?
Bruce Partington, he's
No,
thrown out onto the train.
I think he
No.
moved the body. I think he was already
Yeah.
dead.
Body.
Yeah.
He didn't. He was not alive when he was thrown on the train.
no.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think he was just attempting to move the body.
Okay, I haven't read it for a while.
I think he was dead for a while. But
Yeah.
by the way, Amazon.com does have a murder al fresco,
Oh,
but it's
Is it about homes?
It looks like it's a children's book though.
well, then Robin's a creative plagiarist.
There you
Oh.
go.
That's quite the title for a children's book.
Well, I think it's like let's see. I lost it. Hold on. I'll get it back and I can tell you. Yes, it was in the series called The Southern Pasta Shop Mysteries. The Southern Pasta Shop Mysteries, book 3 is called Murder al Fresco. I guess they're murders with a pastry shop theme.
I'm pretty sure Robin may use
pasta shop,
the
yeah.
title for his work.
Mm.
That sounds a bit like Sweeney Todd, where they end up in a pie for dinner, right?
Yeah. Anybody we haven't heard from yet? Any other last comments here? Because we're getting close to the end of the hour. Or any last thoughts?
Bruce, thank you for a very interesting talk. That was fun.
Another attempted murder maybe was Jackie. in the Sussex Vampire trying to kill the baby.
I think he does that indoors.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
in terms of a homicide.
Yeah, but it's a murder. Yeah, it's inside murder.
Yeah, that'll be a
Good
much.
job.
I'm
Inside
calling
attempted murder. Inside attempted, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, you have your next talk all set up for you, inside murders.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always a separation.
Sequel.
I think you do a good comparison, Robin, indoor and outdoor, and
Yeah.
kind of talk about that. I think it'd be very interesting.
Oh, absolutely. There is nothing like a comparison.
Tracking in the Canon, I think, would be a good article.
Tracking.
Tracking Canon, yeah.
All right. So thank you, Robin, for a wonderful talk. Let's give him a virtual round of applause.
Yes, thank you, Robin.
Hey. And next month, let me just share my screen one last time here. Is going to be Tom Burns, who he gave a couple of talks on some of the stories in this collection actually here. And he's going to talk about his book, 10 Steps from Baker Street, which is a new collection of untold stories. I'm not sure, Tom, are you on the talk right now? I wasn't sure if he was. But he's going to talk a little about how he did this. Stories take place actually in chronological order, and it's a pretty good collection, I think. And he's offered, if you would like a review copy, you could send him an email and I can put that in, or you can let me know and I can contact him, and you can get a reading copy to read before next month. All right, everyone. Hey, thank you all for coming, and I look forward to seeing you in June. And actually on that Saturday in June, we'll have this meeting, and then that evening we'll have the Broad Street Irregulars meeting, which I can send information to about that as well, if anyone would like to join the Solar Ponds group for our induction meeting. And I'm going to give a little talk just about what's been going on in the world of solar ponds lately. So I look forward to seeing everybody in June. Take care. Have a great month, my friends, and I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Derek.
Right.
Eric, let me know what's going on.
I will, Jerry. I didn't send anything to you yet because there's still a chance I can make it work. I just got to work on a few things. Okay.
All right, well, keep me posted.
Will do.
Have a good one.
You too.
Right.
Right. And
Ha, I'm the last one. Me
you're
and
one of the last. How are you, Larry?
Okay,
Ready for
bye.
tomorrow?
I'm ready. Are you
Oh,
ready?
good.
tomorrow? You're the quiz guy, aren't you?
No,
Oh,
I don't think. Did I win last time? I don't
Who
think I won. I didn't win.
Who win? Who did
I don't
win?
remember. I only got. I didn't do
yeah.
that great last time.
Okay. Oh well, I hope somebody shows up with a quiz.
It won't be me, as I tell you. I didn't.
It was Michael, actually. Maybe it was Michael now that I think about
It may have been Michael. I didn't do. I can't, because the
I
last
came
quiz
down
was
between me
hard.
and somebody else with how many Lestrade mysteries there were. How many times?
Yeah, I don't know who.
But I
Was it
can't
Lee?
remember who it
Did
was.
Lee give it last month? It was a tough quiz. I remember that.
Maybe it was Lee. Maybe it was Lee.
Yeah, I think it was. I could be wrong.
No, Lee's quizzes drive me crazy. She's always like, all of the above or none of the above.
Yeah.
Those are very hard. It's very hard for me to, somehow that's too much for me.
Right.
But okay. All right, we'll see. All right. See you.
Yeah, but I will see you tomorrow. All right.
Looks like Anna's still with us.
I'm not sure. Anna, are you actually still here? I wonder if she walked away.
Anna.
I wonder if she walked away. I was gonna give her an update on the Beacon Society meeting. So,
No.
but I can't now. Because she's there, but she's not there.
Well, she might pop back.
She
All
might
right.
pop back.
All right.
Hey,
All
I
right,
gotta
so-
run because I'm actually gonna be eating lunch with Chuck today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Say hi. Well, just let me wrap up. As far as that Saturday goes,
Yeah.
with the castle. So yeah, he's basically said I can do anything. I can come down anytime between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So
Really?
if we don't finish, or if
You can go back.
we can go back, I've got all summer.
Right.
And this guy just started, Ramon, he started 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And so he's very much, when I explained everything, the concept of, I'm like, we're looking to publish, da, da, da. He's very agreeable to it. When I had talked to Tony Lynn earlier, she was very agreeable to it. And
Good.
she said there may even be a book that the castle had put out like years ago that has since gone out of print. And she was like, would you guys be interested in bringing it back into print? And I said,
Yes.
as long as we can get the rights,
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure there's no question about rights whatsoever, we're more than happy.
If it's through them, there probably wouldn't be, because they would be.
Right.
They would
Right,
still
but I
be
don't
right.
know if it's tied up with a publisher and they have rights for so many decades or whatever.
Right.
Always
Out of,
got to
if
check
it's been
that.
out of print though, usually that's easy to.
Oh yeah,
Because once it's out of print for a little bit, it just goes. Yeah. That's easy. Perfect.
Okay. Oh, and so what happened with the solar ponds thing Thursday night?
I think, I'm guessing everybody was busy. Like I had to do help like get a humidifier set up for Rhea, and I was honestly just zonked. So that week just killed me. And I just couldn't really participate much. I just think, I actually wonder if Jim threw it off by saying, oh, I might have to go to the vet, so I don't know if I'll even be participating. Remember that? He put that out there. So I just think it's going to be something that ebbs and flows.
Yeah,
But
Ralph was said like he wasn't going to be able to make it, and
my guess.
I mean, I'm just like, well, me and Jim.
What I think, I'll probably remind people for next time is if you want a copy of the story, contact us because we could get you a PDF and things like that, just to get more people to read it. I think that might be the case now. We're getting into stories people haven't read.
Right.
Just it is what it is. But I mean, we'll see. And I talked to George for a bit last week, George Vanderberg.
Yeah.
And he said there's a big shakeup at granted, this is George, so I have to check to see if this is true. But this is a big shakeup at the society, the Duralist Society, that Tracy was fired from being, the publisher, which might be why he never got me a bill, because he'd sent, I'm like, when are you going to send us the bill for this year? And that the board was gutted, like they got rid of a lot of board members and stuff. George is now back in good standing with them because he was on the outs. So,
wow,
I mean, we'll see.
That's
Again,
seismic. I mean,
I'll contact Mark Wardecker about it. I just haven't had a chance to see, if he's got any insights into how true this is. But we'll see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the, I guess I get some nice paper. I'm going to make the certificates and I'm going to mail them to George. He's going to sign them and he's going to mail them out. And he said to make sure I send him our certificates as well for him to sign.
Okay,
for the PSI inductions. So I just have to track down a couple of people's addresses, and then I'll send them to George. So he also wants a list of addresses, which makes sense. So so that's where we're at right now.
Anna's gone.
Yep, she left. All right, and I gotta contact her anyway, but I gotta get going.
Awesome.
And I'll be in touch. I could probably give you a call tomorrow when I get back from.
No, tomorrow we're going to be in Boston.
Okay.
We're seeing Beetlejuice, the play.
Oh, nice. Just let me know how it is. It's coming to Denver. So looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, it's Free Comic Day.
Yes, that's actually why, who was it? What's her name? Our comic book person wasn't here today.
Oh, Joanna. Yeah.
Joanna, yeah, Joanna said, Derek, I can't, it's Free Comic Book Day. So I won't make it. So, all right, dude, I'll be
Awesome.
in touch.
All right, man.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.